Hi, good afternoon. This video is on composite and inscribed figures. So let's start with the composite shapes, which is just combining two or more shapes together. So the rules say to find the area of each figure separately, and then you add the areas together. So the first example is, it looks like it can be a trapezoid and a rectangle. You could probably even separate this into three shapes, a triangle and a square and then another rectangle, or maybe even a small triangle then a long rectangle. It really depends on your preference. Me personally, I'm going to go ahead and separate this into a rectangle and then a trapezoid. And then what I'm going to do with the two shapes is I'm going to find the area of both separately. So I'm going to do the trapezoid first. And my trapezoid's bases are 10 and 4. So base 1 plus base 2. The height of my trapezoid, well, if this whole thing is 8, if the whole thing is 12 and this is 8, then this has to be 4 right here. So I'm going to put a little 4 right here. So the height is 4. And I'm going to cut that by 2. So 10 times 4, or 10 plus 4 is 14. 14 times 4 is 56, and then 56 divided by 2 gives me 28. So that trapezoid gives me 28 feet squared. Then I have this rectangle, which is an 8 by 4. And 8 times 4 gives me 32 feet squared. Then I can add the two together, so 28 plus 32. And I get a total of 60 feet squared. If you broke your shape up into a longer rectangle and you got a 12 by 4, and then you did a small triangle where the base was 6 and the height was 4, you would have gotten 12 plus 48, which still would have gotten you 60. So both ways, breaking it up into different shapes, you'll still end up getting all the same. All right, number 2. The two shapes here are a rectangle and a semicircle. A semicircle is half of a circle. So half of a circle, we know we're going to find the area of this circle, which is pi times r squared. But then because it's half of a circle, it's a semicircle, we're going to divide by 2. And then my other shape is this long rectangle, and its area is length times width, so 9.2 times 1.5. So I can find that area really quickly, 9.2 times 1.5, and I get 13.8. And then with my semicircle, well, this whole thing is 9.2, and this small piece is 2.5. Then the missing dimension right here from this edge of the circle to this edge of the circle is 9.2 minus 2.5, and that gives me 6.7. Now 6.7 is all the way across, which is my diameter. We know for area of a circle, we want to use radius. So we're going to take the 6.7 and cut it in half. So we get 3.35 for my radius. So pi, so 3.14 times 3.35 squared, all of that divided by 2 because we're only finding half of the circle. 3.14 times 3.35 squared gives me 35.23865, and then we're going to cut that in half. And then let's go ahead and round to the hundredths place. So we get 17.62, and then we could take our two areas and add them together. So 13.8 plus 17.62, and then we get 31.42 centimeters squared. Okay. Moving on to our next shape. So our next shape looks like a bunch of rectangles. I'm going to break it up this way. I'm going to do a really long rectangle this way. And then it looks like I'm going to have two identical, possibly squares, maybe rectangles. Okay. But the first thing I need to do is I need to label all the dimensions because some things are missing. So I know this one's 11 because of the tick marks right here. I know this is 9. I know this one right here also has to be 11. Well, 11, 11, 11 makes 33. So if this is 33 all the way across, this is 15 because that's 15. Okay. So if I know that this is 9, and I know that this whole thing is 15, then I know that this small pink side, that has to be 6. So my pink rectangle is actually going to be 33 times 6. Okay. And then my rectangle is 11 by 9. But I have 2 of them, so I'm going to double it. So 11 times 9, but then I'm going to double it because I've got another one over here. All right. Now I'm going to go ahead and just find those 2 areas. So 33 times 6 gives me 198. And then 11 times 9 times 2 gives me 198. And then I can add those 2 together, and I get 396 meters squared. Okay. All right. Moving on, I feel like we're doing okay. If you feel like I've made a mistake somewhere, or if you cut yours in a different shape, but you ended up getting the same answer as me, you can make a comment down at the bottom of the video. All right, the next 2 shapes we have a semicircle, and then we have a triangle. So let's find the area of the semicircle. And notice how I am using 2 different colors. I can kind of separate my work. So semicircle, again, is you just find the area, so pi r squared, but then cut it in half. So if this whole thing is 8, that means the radius is 4. So 3.14 times 4 squared divided by 2. And then I also have this this triangle. And this triangle is a 12 by 8 because remember base and height must be perpendicular to each other. So base times height, so 12 times 8, and then a triangle you divide by 2. So let's go ahead and find let's find that area. So 12 times 8 divided by 2 gives me 48 for the triangle. The circle, I'm going to go ahead and type in the calculator. So 3.14 times 4 squared, and then all that divided by 2 because it's half of a circle. So I get 25.12, and then I'm going to add those 2 areas together. So I got 48 for the triangle, and I got 25.12 for the semicircle. I'm going to add those 2 together for a total of 73.12 meters squared. And I do apologize for how small the space is for working. I do try to shrink it so it can fit into our notebook nicely. All right, this one looks kind of funky because they don't really split up the shapes like they did here, but we do kind of notice that this is a semicircle. So what we can do is we can kind of draw a line right here, and then we can color that in. And then we've also got a rectangle drawn. So we've got 2 shapes. We've got a rectangle and a semicircle. The rectangle is kind of easy because it gives us the dimensions of 12 and 8. So 12 times 8. Don't have to do anything else fancy to it. So you get 96 feet squared. Now the semicircle, it doesn't look like it gives us too much information. But what we do know is that this side right here is parallel to this side and they're congruent, which means they're the same. So if this is 8, this also has to be 8. I'm going to write that in black so you can see it a little bit better. So if the diameter is 8, it means the radius has to be 4. So we do pi times radius squared, and then because it's a semicircle, we divide it in half. And I feel like we just did that over here. Yes, we did. 3.14 times 4 squared, and we got 25.12. And then you're just going to add the 25.12 plus the 96 for a total of 121.12 feet squared. Again, you took the area here and you added the area here, and that's how I got the total of 121.12 feet squared. All right, let's do a few more, and then you're going to go on the inside and work on your own. Actually, you know what? You finish these 3 because I want to show you how to do inscribed shapes. So on the inside, inscribed shapes is one that is drawn inside of another. So composite, you were composing, you're putting 2 shapes together and adding them. With inscribed shapes, you're putting shapes inside, then you're finding the shaded region. So what you do is you find the area of each figure separately, and then you subtract the areas. All right. This is kind of organized really nicely because they give you spaces to put your area of your square, area of your triangle, and then the area of shaded region. So right here we have this big square. It's a 9 by 9. So our square is 9 times 9, which gives me 81. And then the area of the triangle is right here, which it looks like it tells us is a 4 by 5. So 4 times 5 divided by 2, well, that's 20, and then that's 10. So there's my triangle. And then, because I only want the shaded region, I'm going to take the big square and subtract the small triangle, and it leaves me with this shaded region. So 81 minus 10 gives me 71 feet squared. Okay. The next shape we have is a rectangle and a circle. So we're going to find the area of the rectangle. A 12 by 7. Which gives me 84. And then our circle, well, if our diameter is 4, it means our radius is 2, and it's a full circle, so we don't have to cut it in half. So pi times radius squared, so 3.14 times 2 squared gives us 12.56. I'm going to write those answers right here where they have space. And then I want the area of the shaded region, so I'm going to take the area of the rectangle, I'm going to subtract the circle. So 84, take away 12.56 gives us a total area with the shaded region of 71.44 yards squared. So it's very similar to the front, you're just doing the opposite. Instead of adding, you're subtracting. All right, the two shapes we have here are a big rectangle and a small rectangle. So my big rectangle I'm going to make pink, which is a 10 by 8, which gives me 80. And then my small rectangle is a 8 by 5, which gives me 40. And then I'm going to take my big rectangle and subtract my small rectangle, and 80 minus 40 gives me 40 feet squared. All right, moving on. The next shape is a parallelogram with a triangle inside. So let's find the area of the parallelogram. Remember, parallelogram, you want to do base times height, not base times slant height. So we're going to do 16 times 7. So our parallelogram, again, we're going to do 16 times 7. And 16 times 7 gives us 112. And then we're going to do our triangle, which is 4 times 7. Remember, a triangle you cut in half, so that's 28 divided by 2, which is 14. So we have the area of the parallelogram, we have the area of the triangle, and then we're going to subtract the two, and we get a difference of 98 meters squared. All right, let's do one more, and then the rest will be for you guys to review. All right, our last shape that we're going to do together is a rectangle with a semicircle. So area of a rectangle is 12 times 6. Which is 72. Area of the circle, so the semicircle, is going to be pi times, well, if this is 6, then this has to be 6. And if that's 6, that means the radius has to be 3. So if you want to label that, you can. So then it's going to be pi times 3 squared, all that divided by 2. And I get 14.13. So I'm going to fill in what I know. So I know that the rectangle is 72. I know that the semicircle is 14.13 inches squared. And then the difference between the two is 57.87 inches squared. Okie dokie. All right, so what you need to do is go ahead and work on the bottom three. And then over here on the inside, this has really nothing to do with the Inscribed or Composite. It's really just more of a review of circles. And they do want you to leave in terms of pi, which we did talk about today in class. So I'll do one of those with you just so that you understand what to do. So a town on the coast is building a lighthouse that is 22 meters tall. Determine the area of the circular base of the lighthouse if the radius of the base is 14 meters. So we've got a circular base. Its radius is 14, okay, meters. And we want to know the area of that base. And remember, area is pi times radius squared. So we want to leave the pi alone. We're going to leave it in the answer. So really all we have to do is this, 14 squared. And then 14 squared is 196. So this is pi times 196. And then the order in which they like it is they like the pi to be after. So 196 pi meters squared. So that's how you leave an answer in the terms of pi. You just don't multiply by the 3.14. Okay? So your homework tonight is to do these three on your own. Do these three on your own. And then go ahead and practice 8 through 16 with circles. All right, have a great afternoon. If you have any questions, comments, or concerns, put them at the bottom of my video or ask tomorrow in class. All right, bye.